To me, enough is enough. They just wanna hurt us, bring us down, bring us down. Enough is enough. We won't let them hurt us, bring us down, bring us down. Enough is enough.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Indie Wrestling Corner with another episode of Under the Ropes. I'm your host as always, the queen of the indies, and pretty much the unit pretty much took over this channel, pretty much, it feels like. So we're going up with the next one, the Man of Steel, Mike Verna. How are ya?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here. As we spoke off the air, I had to put you over before the people heard, but I'll do it again. I'm excited to be here. Always a good listen. I mean, I see what you did with my brothers, and I loved it. I spoke to my other brothers, the JTs, the Danny Miles of the world, and you did Trigger too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
You did everybody.
I did everybody, and AC's coming on next week, so you guys stay tuned for that. So,
Beautiful.
but yeah, I feel like I gotta get a lot of shit for that one next week. But you know, we'll do with that one interview at a time, pretty much. So, but guys, if you're new to the channel for the Under the Rope series, here I interview everything independent wrestling, whether it's wrestlers, promoters, referees, behind the scenes. I got you covered. If you guys got questions for Mike, please feel free, drop them into the chat. I'm sure he'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions. So, and make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and share the stream for me. So appreciate all you guys.
And for me.
All right, so if you guys know like how I like to do on this podcast, I always like to go back to basics. So for people that may or may not know about you, so we like to start off with, you know, how you got into professional wrestling.
Sure. So for me, like growing up as a kid, as I'm sure most of your guests have said, pro wrestling was something that I was just in love with. You know, it was one of my childhood passions. Like I was obsessed with it. You know, my room was covered with posters. You know, every DVD possible, every pay-per-view that you can imagine, I had ordered, everything from A to Z. But as a kid, you don't really know like how to become a wrestler, for lack of a better word. You don't really think it's possible. I tell this story a lot where, you know, I remember seeing an episode of the cartoon Recess, for people that are, you know, old like me can remember. That was a show when I was growing up, and there was a character, I think her name was Spinelli, if I'm not mistaken. She was a tomboy and all that, and she was going to go to a wrestling camp over the summer, and it was almost like a circus. So to me, like I always thought, like, to be a wrestler, do you have to join like one of these circus type things, and then Vince McMahon would see you, and then you just don't know? Because as a kid also, my other passion was baseball. So all I did was play baseball, because I never thought that you could actually be a wrestler. But when the time came, I was about, so to backtrack, I mean, everyone enters a point in their life where wrestling kind of falls out, whether it's not cool anymore, or, you know, you in high school and you see girls and there's sports and things, you know, wrestling isn't maybe the talk of the town, which is ironically because now it's as popular as it ever has been. But back then, you know, when I was 17 years old, it wasn't that much. So I was in and out of it. And I would say right around my senior year of high school, I finished my high school season of baseball. I loved it. I was getting ready to kind of start my collegiate baseball career, but there was something about it that it kind of like was, to use a wrestling term, I was kind of losing my smile a little bit with baseball. Part of it is, you know, from the age of 3 on, all I did was train and work and play to you know, be as good as I possibly can to maybe go on to the next level, go on to the next step. And here I am looking at fate in the eyes, and in college baseball is the next step.
Right.
And something about it just wasn't tickling my fancy the way it used to. It really just wasn't exciting me. You know, like I said, whether it had to been with just that coming to age situation where like you kind of start seeing new interests, you know, you get more of a social life. Obviously in high school, there's female distractions and whatnot. And I just wasn't feeling it. So I was entering a point in my life where I was like, do I want to continue to play baseball? And up until my senior trip, where we went to Seaside Heights and we did everything imaginable that a high school senior would do on their senior week, me and my friends, we were just like drunk. I hate to say it, but it is what it was. Underage drinking, I don't condone, but you know, whatever.
A kid's a kid.
Everyone's been there before.
Yeah.
But, you know, so I'm there, I am shit faced, and we're doing wrestling moves to each other like we're 10 years old again on these shanty Seaside Heights motel beds, and we're breaking beds, and we're fucking paying $700 for beds that we don't have at 17 years old. And from that point on, all the way into the summer, I fell in love with wrestling again, and I couldn't believe it. I was sitting there, I was like, I'm in love with this again. Like, what can I do? And then I started seeing that you can actually be a wrestler. You don't have to join the circle to be a wrestler. You can look up schools and academies and training centers, and you can be trained to be a professional wrestler. And right then and there is where I kind of faced my first fork in the road of life, when I was like, okay, if I'm going to play college baseball, this is going to be another 4 years of pure dedication, pure 100%, because that's me. I go 100% with whatever I do. So I was not going to be able to play baseball and possibly pursue this wrestling dream. It was either I was going to play baseball and this would be something that I would never pursue. That's how I thought at the time, because obviously anything can happen. You know, when you graduate college at 21, anything can happen. But at that particular time, I was like, it's a now or never thing for me. So I faced that moment with me, and I said, you know what, I'm going to pursue this wrestling thing. And I remember telling my coach, like, I'm not going to play. You know, it's just something about me. If the passion's not there, I just can't do it. And, you know, what was the saving grace with that was my high school coach offered me a coaching job right off the bat.
Oh, wow.
So that was my way of saying, okay, fate is telling me if I'm not going to play, I'll still be involved in the game through coaching. And who knows where that could lead me. And then, you know, fast forward to today, I'm a college baseball coach. I work with the Italian national baseball team, so on and so forth. So like everything worked out, my point being. But the wrestling thing, this was like a clear path for me to pursue this childhood dream. So what I did was I looked up as many of the schools as I can. At that time, back in 2012, I started training in 2011, and I debuted 2013. So back in 2011, there wasn't Creative Pro. There wasn't a lot of schools that were really like as vindicated as they are right now and as popular as they are right now. But there was one that to this day is one of the New York, you know, it's a landmark in pro wrestling in the New York scene, and that's the NYWC, the New York Wrestling Connection. They're responsible for Matt Cardona, Brian Myers, Tony Nese, Trent, Mike Mondo. Mikey Whipwreck was the head trainer. My personal first trainers were Alex Reynolds and Tony Nese themselves. Go figure. But I remember meeting Big O, who is if you guys remember the True Long Island story.
I am all
back in that time period, 2011, when Zack Ryder was hot as hell in WWE. And Big O was frequently used on that web series. And I met him at the Nassau Coliseum that summer. And I was marking out because, you know, like I said, at that particular time, like I'm back into wrestling full force. I love it. I know I want to pursue it, but I don't really have that path. Like, what am I doing? I can look up these schools, but what is the step? And that's the thing that's interesting, not to stray too off topic, that a lot of people like getting into the door in wrestling, like we were talking about off the air, is it can happen in so many different ways, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a referee, it's a manager. You never really have a direct way to get in. So as easy as it was to sign up, it's like you have to look at yourself sometimes. Are you ready physically? Are you ready mentally? Are you ready to commit? So no one's path is really clear. But when I met Big O and we were kind of shooting the shit a little bit, and he's the one who told me, he's like, look, I trained at NYWC. You should give it a shot. And then right then and there, I was like, yeah, I'm going to give it a shot. And that following week, I signed up. I met Tony Nese for the first time. He gave me the rundown of what goes on, and my training began. So like I said, I was trained by Alex Reynolds and Tony Nese off the bat with NYWC. The school was overseen by Mikey Whipwreck, so I had a lot of influential people off the bat that were kind of teaching me the basics, which is such a huge thing right now in the business because the popularity of wrestling is so strong right now and it's at its height that I don't want to say that people aren't trained the right way, but they're trained differently. It's more of a fast-paced, let's get you in the ring, let's get you ready for shows, and let's see if you can get over, which is cool. It's a test to a lot of wrestlers where it's like, yeah, you have a lot of natural ability, you have a lot of natural talent. Let's see if you can just get over off the bat. With me in my training class and like anyone from my generation, I didn't see the ring for 8 months. Every single session was learning one chain wrestling hold for 2 hours. So I stood on the floor on my first day, and I learned the collar and elbow tie-up like this for 2 hours on the floor. No snapping into it, no working into it, just literally You're going to learn the footwork. You're going to learn the basics. This is how you're going to do it.
Yeah.
And every single session, I learned a new move, a headlock, a hammerlock, an arm wringer, an arm bar, et cetera, et cetera. I was getting to the point where at times it was very disheartening because I'm sitting here thinking to myself, like, this is what I could have done for baseball, and I wouldn't have to have sacrificed it. I would have been able to do all that hard work, and I probably would have had a little bit more fun. So I'm finding myself back at that crossroad where I'm like, damn, this sucks. But then you start realizing, okay, this is how it's done. This is the process of how you become a pro.
Right.
Because if you don't have the bona fide like time put into those basic things as footwork and holds and stuff like that, then you go into the ring and eventually it's going to look like a car wreck. You know, even if you're gifted athletically to do all the cool stuff, at the end of the day, pro wrestling is more than just that. And I'm sure we'll talk about that, you know, as the conversation continues, but it's more than just a viral gif or, you know, a cool move or a cool sequence. There's a lot more to it. So I'm very thankful for that. To fast forward through my training process, at about 2012, so about like I said, about 9 months, 8 months, 10 months, whatever it was into my training, I was offered a job at GNC. Now, I was working at GNC, but I was working as a sales associate, minimum wage. It got picked up by a franchise, so I had a new owner. And being that I worked in that store for such a long time, the owner said, hey, you know, we need a manager. We need someone who's, you know, familiar with the clientele, familiar with the store, familiar with the product. We'd like to offer you a job, $13 an hour. At 18 years old, 19 years old, however old I was at that time, I was like, yes, I can't say no to that.
Right.
You know, got my first Lexus. I was feeling good. I was, you know, had some money to spend. And obviously I couldn't, you know, end up balancing the two. And then I looked at myself again in the mirror and I said, this sucks. You know, I gave up baseball for this. I dedicated so much time to training and I still haven't even had a match. I don't even have a gimmick name. I don't have anything. So this whole dream that I fantasized about, it was not happening.
Right.
So part of me seeing dollar signs at such a young age and all of that, I kind of said, okay, I'm gonna work and I'm gonna see what happens. And I was able to balance a little bit of it both for a while. And mind you too, I was still a student. So I was in college, I would have this full-time job and I was training to be a wrestler. And then eventually I had to give up the hobby, was what it was at the time. It was a hobby. It was something I was trying to pursue, but it wasn't a job. It wasn't paying me. I was paying $200 a month to train. And I just said, I got to give it up.
Right.
And then speed up a little bit more just to show you how fate it's an ongoing theme with me, you know. I was working out in my gym and one of the head trainers at the time, his name is Talon. He kind of quietly retired recently. But Talon, he was a pretty recognizable name in the Northeast scene. Great guy, great wrestler, really underrated. He was the head trainer. And my girlfriend worked as a desk girl. And I told her, I was like, you know, I remember I walked up to the desk one day and I saw a flyer for a show, and there he was. Talon was on the thing. And I said, this guy's a wrestler. This is wild. Yeah. So I told her, I was like, you know what? Reach out to him. Tell him what I did and let me know what he does. Where does he train? All this stuff. And then I remember her telling me that he told her, he was like, yeah, you know, I'm sure he was a great high school wrestler, but we do different things. And she was like, no, he does what you do. And right then and there, he's like, wow, there's more of us in Brooklyn here. That is not just you and me.
Yeah.
So he had introduced me to Joel Maximo of the SAT, who is my mentor, my finishing coach. I mean, he basically made the Man of Steel. Everything you see of me today, granted, if it wasn't for Tony and Alex, I would have never, become a wrestler and not have the basic fundamental skills that it takes to be a wrestler, the etiquette, which I think is lost to an extent in this era right now. I wouldn't have any of that if it wasn't for them. But Joel made me. Joel made me the wrestler. He gave me the confidence to continue to do it. He helped me balance all the work, the job, the school, all that stuff. He was able to kind of put it all together and make it seem like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. So I debuted in October of 2013, and you know, the rest is history from there. But one funny side comment about that: before I actually made the move to reach out to Talon, what got me back into wrestling, what actually made me turn to myself and say, I need to do this, it was Money in the Bank, I guess 2012. Like I said, that whole time frame is when I did it. 2011 to 2013 was like the beginning for me. So anywhere, one of those years, it was Money in the Bank at the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia. And there was a pre-show match between the Usos and the Shield. And that pre-show match was so good that I remember the crowd was so electric, and it was just, everyone was on cloud nine, where I said, I looked at my buddy and I said, I'm going back. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know how I'm going to balance it, but I'm doing this. And then that was it. That's when I made the call from Talon. and like I said, the rest is history from there. But I always like to bring in that match was definitely what got me back into wrestling.
Yeah, there's always those things that like pull you back into wrestling, and you kind of like nailed everything, because I feel like, you know, you're kind of telling my story too, with the fact that it's like I gave up like on wrestling at one point. I did like change, you know, and I was like, okay, like here's high school, and it's like, you know, whatever, let me go on about my life and college and all this stuff. And then it was like I got suckered back into like, oh, Seth Rollins was like back then in the days for me, and I was like, okay, this just pulled me back into wrestling, because, you know, the fact of being friends with people who loved it.
Yeah, it was like all these cool things, and it was interesting too because the indies were not hot yet.
Yeah.
So it was just strictly WWE, and I remember The Rock came back, and there was Stone Cold appearances. I was just like, yo. And here's the thing about our generation is that I think speaking for myself, I'm sure this touches you too, is nostalgia.
Yeah.
We love nostalgia.
Of course.
So, like, we're nostalgia people. So something like that, like that Seaside weekend doing 3Ds and Stone Cold Stunners, that's nostalgia. Because I wasn't hitting no 450 splashes. I wasn't doing anything crazy like that. I was like, let me 3D this motherfucker through a bed. I ain't doing no 450. So, you know, that's the stuff that got me really back. But I love that you kind of had the same experience.
Yeah.
Because I think it's like, it really is adamant to how wrestling is timeless and how wrestling is kind of always with you. And I don't want to kind of speed up our timeline of our conversation, because I'm sure we'll talk about this.
Yeah.
It's always like kind of like what I'm going through now, where it's like I'm really doing successful things in Hollywood.
Right.
And like, it's crazy because like everyone's like, oh, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? And I always say this, like, once a wrestler, always a wrestler.
Yeah.
I'm saying, like, wrestling is the sole reason that anything outside the ring has happened for me in the entertainment world. Yeah. It's the only reason why. If I never would have been a wrestler, it would have never happened ever. So it's wild. It's wrestling is something that really is in your blood.
Wrestling. Now
fight forever.
So I'm gonna blow you away, because I don't know if you know this, but it's funny because, you know, you talk about NYWC, and we talk about, like I said, that here was like a long time ago. I was with a bunch of friends, and they were talking wrestling, and they were talking WWE, and I'm like, how is wrestling nowadays? And then they were like, it's good. You know, they're like, you should check it out. So that's what happened. I wind up checking it out. And it was funny. So this is where I'm going to blow you away, is that James McGrady, Jumbo Ref.
Jumbo, yeah.
Yes. So he's one of my close friends, and he was the one that told me, he was like, Tip, he goes, I ref. And I was like, really? And I was dating his friend at the time. And I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah, you should come watch me ref. And I was like, okay, cool. You know, like, this sounds fun. And then the guy that I was dating at the time, and he was like, yeah, but he refs. He was like, who cares? And I'm like, that's terrible. I was like, that's your friend, and I'm trying to support your friend over here. So that's how, like, I know you, because that's really was like kind of my first independent circuit for me, was going to the NYWC. I like go there, and then like House of Glory came about to me and everything, and then like I didn't know how deep independent wrestling is, and this is why I do these interviews and this podcast about independent wrestling, because it's insane.
It is. I hate to cut you off, because you're right. Like, when I first started, I didn't know anything about independent wrestling. Like when I first met Joel Maximo, I tell him to this day, I didn't know who the fuck he was.
Yeah.
If you weren't, you know, and he worked for WWF at the time as a enhancement guy and all that stuff. But I was like, if you weren't a WWE like flag waving guy, I didn't know who you were. I didn't know who Bryan Danielson was. I didn't know who CM Punk was. All these guys that real wrestling fans can like sit there and give you, you know, their start dates and their finish, their, you know, when their last match was, what their finisher is. I didn't know anything. If you weren't giving me a rock bottom or a stunner, I did not know. So it's amazing because there is such like deep lines when it comes to independent wrestling. And when you look at it, like when I explain people that don't know wrestling what I do, I say, well, because obviously baseball is my secondary, thing.
Yeah.
I always say, like, it's like minor league baseball. Independent wrestling is minor league baseball. It's like everyone starts somewhere, unless you're scouted because you're 9 feet tall or you're an all-American athlete. Like, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, and here we are. So it's just crazy. And it's like I say that I go to a lot of shows, I promote I go to a lot of places, and I still haven't put a nick. I have so many bucket lists of places I want to go to. There's so many people I want on the podcast. It's nuts. There's a lot of talented people out there, so that's why we learn about you guys. So,
Absolutely.
so let's go with this because clearly, like I said, I probably blew your mind with the whole thing because this is like years ago that like I probably like 9 years ago that I started coming out to the independent scene. So
Literally just about when I started.
yeah, so I know you a long time, and you know, Anthony Gangone's important to me, and I saw Anthony Gangone from out there too. So it's just wild. But like I said, clearly I know you. I've seen you in person so many times. But I'd like to ask your opinion for that fan that's new watching this interview, never saw you wrestle before. What's the match that they should turn on to fall in love with you?
Wow, that's a really hot seat question. I kind of love it. Let's see. There's a few that I would definitely. So here's an interesting thing, and I don't know if a lot of wrestlers are the same thing, but I don't like to always watch myself back. I ever since I started doing movies and TV, I hate watching myself back. It's because there's no fan reaction. At least with a match, you can have a moment and the fans can react. And you'll kind of like feed off that, and you don't have to worry about like super close-ups and all these little things and whatever. But I don't watch a lot of my stuff back, as crazy as that sounds. But the matches I do watch back, and some of the more memorable stuff, if you really wanted to go back to a match that I still to this day consider one of my best matches, which ironically, the ironic thing about it was I was so green. I was 9 months in, but it was against Talon. It was my first championship win. It was 700 people in my hometown, in my home church. I don't care how many tickets I sold. It was an electric atmosphere. And that right there to me is maybe not necessarily your most YouTubeable match when it comes to Mike Verna, but it's a match where you can see the raw emotion of a lot of people being invested in me. And I still go back to that match to this day because, you know, to see where I started and to see where I am now, it's really a beautiful evolution of sorts, you know, just to kind of see like this was me in my purest form in the ring. And now here I am now, grizzled, established, all that stuff. But I like to go back to that match because that was my first moment of like, hey, this is what over's like. This is what success is like. This is what a big match feel is like at such an inexperienced level. So now when you go there and I wrestle for AEW in front of a packed UBS, you know, arena or Prudential Center or Jacksonville, you know, it's kind of easier now because you've had those moments first. But to answer your question more directly, there's a match with JT Dunn and myself before the unit from Chaotic Wrestling. I think it was 2018 or 2019, which was not even on a big show. It was just a regular Chaotic show, not a super show. And we just had a great match, great chemistry. I always have great chemistry with JT. He's one of my best opponents. I have a match recently from NEW against Mike Bennett, which I think as my work as a heel, I hate to break the fourth wall, but we know what it is. That is one of my really good heel work moments. Just kind of like really feeling out being an aggressor, kind of changing my style up a bit. It's there. I have countless ones. Honestly, if you go to IWTV and you go to High Spots Network and you search my name, you'll find matches that are your favorite that I won't even know existed. Let's put it that way. When you do it for as long as I've been doing it, it's so hard to just pick out one. But I'm telling you, you know, the streaming services certainly have a lot of good things. For an AEW match, I will say, if you guys want to YouTube a match, it was me and I think it was Baron Black. And we wrestled the Butcher and the Blade back in Jacksonville. And I think that was one of my best performances in that situation. I really felt like I was coming into my own there. I was getting really comfortable with the people at AEW. I was finally understanding you kind of how to get over in that circumstances as an enhancement guy. And wrestling the Butcher and the Blade, how much they gave me during that match, that was awesome. There's just so much countless ones. I'm kind of thinking of them as we go. But if you search my name, I guarantee you'll find something that you like.
Oh, yeah. Thank you to all the streaming services and YouTube and all that fun stuff out there because it's great. It's always fun. I personally love to do that. I'll have those moments like, okay, like let's say I'm interviewing somebody. I'm like, all right, you know, like I want to like look at some other stuff, you know, or maybe I had that interview already with somebody. Then I go back and then I go deeper into the history of like, shit, like.
Yeah, you don't realize that's there. It's funny. I was talking to Joel because I gave him my login stuff for High Spots and all that stuff. And he doesn't realize how much of his videos from the SAT are on that thing. I mean, now that they're doing their comeback run, it's like they're so relevant and cool again that so many people are searching their stuff and he's looking it up. He's like, damn, I didn't even know this match existed here. Like he thought this was an old school RF like VHS only. And there it is up on the High Spots.
It's great. It's really fun. I do that with one of my friends. We'll go into like Zoom or Skype or something, and then we'll share the screen, and then like we'll just like watch matches together. You know,
it's
fun.
fun.
It is.
Watch-alongs. That might be our comeback thing. Next time I'm on, we'll have to do a watch-along.
Yes, those are fun. Those are fun. I like doing that. I mean, you touched so many different things that it's like, you know, like, these were all like questions that I was gonna bring up and funny because it's like now you just like threw me because it's like now where do I want to go because
honestly, the best thing about these podcasts are when you start somewhere and you end this way and all of a sudden you're like, this is better. This is even better.
So let's start with chaotic wrestling, actually, because I mean, it's chaotic, and you know, I'm glad that I finally got to come up to Massachusetts. I've never been there, so chaotic was my pop of a cherry for Massachusetts, which was great. And then the second time that I came back, I brought my friend, and one of the things that I had said to her was, I was like, you're gonna really like this promotion. I was like, you're gonna like the crowd. I was like, you're gonna like the storytelling, which we've talked about with Chase, and you know, so we just started like hitting all these things, and that these are the things that I personally look for because promoters obviously always want me to come to the shows and stuff, and I'm like, there's things that I look for in promotions to support, and storytelling's huge for me, you know. And like I like all my different kind of mix of wrestling, so I like my flippy shit, I like my technical shit, you know, like there's just so many different, you know, options that you have. But the fact of even having like 6 matches, but you're getting that time to actually wrestle, because I hate those damn squash matches and shit like that. It's like, no, give me something. Give me meat. You know?
I think what you just said about like, you know, wrestlers are the same way. We look for certain things in promotions that we want to be a part of. You know, at this stage of my career, I just don't take bookings.
Yeah.
And not to sound like a, you know, like egotistical maniac or something like that, but I'm at the point now where it's like, if you know who I am, you can reach out to me. We'll talk. But with everything else going on right now, I don't really necessarily need the money to wrestle every single company that doesn't like scratch my itch. Right. You know what I'm saying, for lack of a better word. And because wrestling is so cool right now, there are so many companies out there. So us as wrestlers, we look for those promotions where it's like, yeah, okay, there are some that are just a payday, where it's like, hey, they're going to pay you this, you'll wrestle there one time and that's it. And then there are some where it's like, I am passionate about this company. And don't get me wrong, every single company that I work for, I give my 100% no matter what. But wrestlers could tell quality from quantity. Yeah. And that's where I am for my career right now too, is like, you don't want to just be on a show to be on a show. It's different for guys that are just establishing themselves early on, where they need to get reps and they need to see what a live crowd is. But if you're a type of company where established guys and guys that are over on the indies that don't really have contractual obligations and they want to work for you, that's really a testament. And Chaotic is definitely one of those. To put things very simple for Chaotic, for me, Chaotic to me is a home. It's a home away from home. It is the first New England booking that I ever got, and it's the reason why I was able to wrestle everywhere else in New England. If it wasn't for Chaotic, I don't even think I'd be over at this point. I really don't, because, you know, as far as the Northeast territory, New England is a breeding ground for pro wrestling, and the New England Pro Wrestling Academy is the breeding ground for New England Pro Wrestling, and that's a Chaotic run school. So as you can see when you come to the show, whether it's a smaller venue, whether it's a massive venue like Cold Fury, like, they do things right. You know, they do things right. But the biggest thing about Chaotic that really keeps me going, and mind you, you took that ride. You know how that ride is. It's not the easiest ride on Friday. It's not the easiest ride on Friday. I tell people all the time, it's like, yeah, you know, I'm going to Massachusetts today. I got to wrestle. You know, I'll probably work 8 minutes, but I'll spend about 9 hours in my car. So it's one of those things. But I love Chaotic. I love the locker room. To break kayfabe, I love Chase. Chase is my brother. Like, I love him. He gets it. He just gets it. That's really the simplest thing to put it without kind of breaking the fourth wall too much. But what you said that really makes me love about Chaotic more than anything is the storytelling. I think when you look at an indie, you have a lot of shows now that are very successful just putting on dream matches, very successful just putting on international showcases, or, you know, this guy's over in the company through storylines. This guy, I'm going to pin him against a guy. You know, so you'll have, like, for example, like you'll have me against some guy they bring in that just got released, or this guy. But Chaotic will say, okay, here's our roster, here's our students, and here's our 2 or 3 outside guys that we'll bring in over the course of 4 months or so. We're going to tell a story with our core. And I think Chaotic does a brilliant job of, like, putting together a live television product. And there is no TV. We have Twitch, we have the streaming services and all that, but it feels like TV. It feels like you're watching old school traditional pro wrestling. And that's kind of what I touched on before about how wrestling is hot, but it's also different, and it's not necessarily the wrestling that I grew up loving, but it's different and it's good. But chaotic kind of brings that all together.
Right.
And we always say it when we have locker room meetings and we have like, discussions about certain things. It's always like, look, we tell stories that's chaotic.
Yeah.
We tell stories that chaotic. And that's what it comes down to. It's like, if our fans, the more and more you come, you'll see it's the same faces all the time. They might as well be season ticket holders.
Yeah.
They might as well just have the PSL seats where their names are etched onto the folding chairs because they're there all the time and they're invested in the product.
Yeah.
And the fact that now this year we've been traveling a lot. Back when I first started, we kind of have like 3 buildings. Now I think we got like 10. Wow. And what happens is Massachusetts is big. It's big enough. People are going to every single building, whether it's a new building that we just debut in or whether it's a building that's an hour away from another one, people are going. And that's a testament to people being invested into the product. And when it comes to pro wrestling, for me, as a performer or as someone watching it as a fan, investment is the word. You have to be invested in what you see, in what you're watching, the character, whatever you want, even the moves. I'll go as far as saying if you're invested in a move, like again, to go back to my trainer SAT, like everyone back in the day, everyone kind of paid to see the Spanish Fly.
Right.
If you're invested in the Spanish Fly, that's an investment. If you're invested in someone who's just a character, just a straight up gimmick, and he doesn't really have the in-ring ability or she doesn't really have the in-ring ability, but she is over or he is over because of his character, you're invested. If you're invested in somebody's physique, you're invested. If you're invested in a wrestler, period, that's what it comes down to is investment.
Right.
And I think what we're missing a lot on the indies is real pure investment. Right. And I think we get that at Chaotic.
Yeah, I love it. Like I said, I brought my friend and, just so when we left, the show, and then she was like, I really like this promotion. I was like, I knew you would. I was like, that's why I told you to come take the ride with me. I was like, because it was fun. And it is paid, like drive up like 3.5 hours, or more.
That's if you're lucky. 3.5.
Yeah, I left early enough that I was like, okay, I'm going early. But
you're a better person than me.
I was like, yeah, I'm doing this ride, and then I wind up staying there. But it's just fun. Again, like everything, the fans, you guys are great. It's just a fun promotion. I appreciate, again, the storylines, the quality of matches, and that's what it's about. And you nailed like a whole bunch of things. It just makes me laugh because this whole entire weekend I was talking about that I'm obsessed with bridges, but they have to be perfect where you're on your toes. And if it's a flat bridge, then sorry, like nope. But and,
that's a good analogy.
and shooting star press, and those are like 2 of my favorite moves. And if you could give me that, or if you're Arcadia, and I joke around with the scissor cut move, which it's a cool fucking move. It's called, or it's a cool move. These are the things that make me pop. So.
I'm not gonna give you a bridge. I'm sorry to say.
Well, I guess this interview is
flexible like that no more.
I guess this interview is over now. Bye. No, I popped because I know like JT gave me one, and I screenshot it because I think it was in one of my videos at the last Chaotic show, and I posted it because everybody knows I'm just like obsessed with it, and I'm like, just leave me alone. Let me just admire this gorgeous bridge on toes right now. I was like,
I'll see what I can do. All right? I'll see what I can do. I do a fisherman buster where I attempt a bridge, but I'll see what I can do.
Listen, I really appreciate, and I love the fact that now a lot of people are purposely doing it to pop me now, because like the H2O students are like, the only reason why I'm doing it because I know I'm gonna pop Tiff, and I'll hear Tiff, and then like Nick Wayne told me the other day, and he was like, I'm gonna give you one. He goes, with Jordan Oliver. He goes, you watch, and then he saw me from afar. And he gave me the bridge on toes, and he heard me pop. And then during intermission, when I went to go see him, he goes, you saw? I did it for you. I did it for you. And I was like, I love you. He goes, I look back up for you. He was like, so I appreciate, I really get invested with all you guys. And, this is why the Queen of the Indies. But
we appreciate that. Like, we need that.
Yeah.
You just said the magic word, investment.
Yeah. Let me get some love in this chat because I'm sorry, I'm not ignoring you guys. We're just like deep into this convo. So everything pro wrestling, what's up? Captain Dave, how are you? Wes, his son and him say hi. Sky, what the hell time is it? The UK, it's 6 hours. So what is it, 2 in the morning? What the hell? She goes, I'm pulling an all-nighter. I'm nervous about training tomorrow. So and I had this conversation when JT was on. She's been training now 3 months. Is it 3 months now? So she just started training, and she loves these interviews that I do because she takes notes, and you'll have a fan for life. So she's all about the unit now. Did you get your shirt? She said she was hoping for a unit shirt. for her
I'll have to
birthday.
talk to the boss about that. But really, good luck. Good luck on this endeavor that you're pursuing. You might hit some bumps in the road, no pun intended. You might hit some moments where you're kind of down, but when there's downs, there's highs.
Yeah, yeah.
Highs, whatever it is. But you just stick through it, stay focused, and don't be nervous. Once the nerve, Ric Flair always said this: you could be nervous, but when the butterflies disappear, there ain't no reason to do it no more.
Yeah.
So have those butterflies. Enjoy the nervousness. But make sure it's positive nervousness. Don't make it overcome you.
There you go. There you go. She said she might try a bridge tomorrow in training just to send it to me. Do it! I will pop.
Tag us on Twitter if you do it.
Short Round in the chat says, been going to Chaotic shows for a decade now. Absolutely love Chaotic. So thank you. So since we're talking Chaotic, let's talk the unit. We're gonna, the unit's like one of the best factions going on right now around, and I'm loving it. I talked about it with Danny Miles last week, and we were talking about how you guys, know how to play into the crowd, and you can piss the crowd off.
It's crazy too. Before you go to that point, I don't know how long you've been following Chaotic, but I was a really massive babyface at Chaotic for years. And when I turned and I joined the unit, I definitely broke some hearts, and I still get that every time I show up. Like, a lot of fans still try to hug me and say, Mike, please come back. Please do all this stuff. Obviously shoe fly, stay away from me, but I always got love for the Chaotic fans. I always will have love for the Chaotic fans. But the interesting thing about it is now I'm starting to catch some heat. Yeah. And I like it. I like it because it's interesting to see what the unit's capable of. I mean, they took one of their favorite wrestlers and they turned him bad, and all of a sudden, the fans are starting to buy into it. So I love it.
It's hysterical again. And then it was funny. Shout out to the guy. He messaged me and he was like, "I'm the guy that walked out." I'm sorry.
Right,
I'm not trying to throw you under the bus. Like, I have bad love for you. Like, it's hysterical because those are the reactions that make it very entertaining. Listen, I'm there too. I mean, I used to heckle the shit out of MJF at freaking SWA and at NYWC and stuff like that. Like, I used to give him so much shit. So I love heels because you guys are more entertaining as fuck. I mean, but that's.
I'm having a lot more fun. I mean, I'm basically heel everywhere I am now, and I'm having a lot of fun. Having a lot of fun.
Hey, Keith.
Keith's a lot of fun.
Keith's in the chat, so it was Keith that walked out. I have so much love for you, Keith. I'm only teasing. I have so much love for you. I don't know if you got much love for Mike, but I got love for you.
That means I'm doing my job.
Yes. All right, so let's go and touch base with AEW, since you brought it up. And again, you have been one of those people that have multiple, chances to work, dark and stuff, which is great. Yeah. And I love the fact that AEW is giving that opportunity for all the indie wrestlers. And again, I appreciate it because I love the indies, and to get these chances to work, at AEW, which is, it's super indie to me, which is fun. But of course, we're going to talk most recently with you and Anthony Gangone, because again, like I said, Anthony Gangone is very important to me onto the world of wrestling for me. So I was very excited. I think I posted a photo of my dog sitting with me watching your guys' match on Twitter, which was really funny. But man, give us a little more deeper of working AEW, the crowd, give us a little bit of that.
So when I started with AEW, it was the end of December, actually. It was the middle of December, excuse me, because it was before, it was actually during Christmas run. So I think it was December 17th or something like that of 2020. And, I was kind of hesitant early on. Obviously pandemic, we didn't really know exactly what was going on. I mean, there was no wrestling, and mind you, it wasn't so much that I was like, oh, I don't want to go anywhere because of the pandemic, but I was more like, I haven't wrestled in years. A year, basically, whatever it was, it felt like a year. What was it? Freaking, it was 7 months at that time. So I didn't wrestle. I felt like I was out of shape. Gyms were closed. So I was very hesitant to start kind of making my way down there. I knew the door was open, and I'm very grateful for that. The door was definitely open through the people in charge there. They'd always told me hey, if you ever want to come down, you're more than welcome. Come here, get busy, show us what you could do, all that stuff. But I was kind of waiting on it. I said, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? I want to make sure I'm ready to go. So I think September was my first match back. on the indies. They were doing some kind of spot shows here and there, trying to kind of get the feel of things again. And then we kind of hit another stalemate where there wasn't really much from November to, that December time period. And I eventually said, you know what, I'm going to do it. Everyone's doing it. I got to do it too. So I reached out, I got the booking, I went down to Jacksonville, and obviously the first time I was there, I was probably shitting bricks, no doubt about it. It was a new atmosphere. I've done WWE extra work a lot, right. So I kind of knew how that was, and I didn't know what to expect from AEW, but it was actually the complete opposite. First of all, everyone there I know on a personal level, whether I came up with them like MJF and Caster and Bronson, Bear Country. These guys are my friends, coming up. Alex Reynolds is my trainer. There's a lot of people there. I have a good relationship with Cody at the time. QT, the list goes on. Yeah. So I had that relationship where I was like, I'm not nervous. I'm feeling good. This is good. Obviously the jitters are going away a little bit. And then I figure out that my first match is against Peter Avalon, another buddy of mine. We did some loops out in LA together for Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. And I remember Cody said, look, you got 10, 12 minutes, go out and do what you got to do. And we had a nice, good match. He got the win, obviously, but it was a good showing. And I remember, he'd put me over on Twitter. I got a lot of buzz from it. I was like, all right, this is a good start. And then I started getting invited back pretty regularly. I think I was with them 6 weeks in a row, which was awesome. And this was Jacksonville at the time. So keep in mind, guys, during the pandemic with the Jacksonville only tapings, it was obviously a lot more fluid. You can kind of come in, come out. There was a lot more flexibility as well because, we didn't know what the hell was going on with the pandemic. There wasn't any touring, all that stuff. So I did that nice 6-week run. I had a great time there. I had a lot of good matches, a lot of good experience, made new friends, reconnected with old friends, really built a good reputation over there, thank God. And I think everyone there is just a professional from A to Z. You feel like you said super indie, and people may think that could be a negative term, which I know you didn't mean it that way.
Yeah.
But it almost felt that way in a sense where it's you feel like you're in an indie in regards to comfortability.
Right.
The myth of WWE is, and I can attest to it, you show up, you're in a suit, you can't talk to anyone, you can't stand in a place you're not supposed to stand in, you can't eat until you're supposed to eat. It's just a lot of rules, and again, I'm not shitting on WWE. You got to do what you got to do. You're the low man on the totem pole that day. You just got to do what you got to do. With AEW, you're seeing people that are main eventing the show and they're sitting and catering, talking to you, shooting the shit and catching up. Right. That's the best thing going on. I've wrestled Billy Gunn so many times there that I call him Uncle Billy. We go back from the indies. I love him. What I'm saying? The comfortability aspect was it's second to none. Yeah. So like I said, I got lucky that I was able to kind of do that 6-week run. Obviously, when they went on the road again, I couldn't do those. I wasn't going to go to other states that weren't within driving distance and whatnot. But every time they're in the neighborhood, for me in the tri-state area, usually I'm invited, which is awesome. I make my way there. I do my match. I do my work. I see my buddies, and then I go on. And to be clear, AEW is definitely a place that I would love to work on a consistent basis because of the flexibility with the schedule, the TV road, the road schedule, just the shows in general, and the outside freedom that they give you that you don't necessarily get with WWE and other companies. So. In long story short, I love AEW. Yeah. It's a company that I think everyone, if they're given the chance, should experience because it is TV. It is a top company. It's one of the hottest companies in the world right now, obviously, and it's a great place to be. Just the work morale there is high. Your peers and colleagues there, no one's trying to knock you down. You hear a lot of bad things about wrestling. Oh, this person's out for blood. This one doesn't want you to succeed. If you're not a piece of shit person and you're not a bad and you're a good worker. No one's going to tell you you can't succeed there. No one's going to be there and put you in a bad spot. But if you show up and you're a piece of shit and you can't work and you're a bad guy overall and you're not professional, then it sucks for you because you had a golden opportunity to get some work and you screwed it. But AEW is definitely the land of opportunities. Yeah. I love every time I work there, and I'm looking forward to see what they have next in store now that a lot of things are changing over there. Yeah. As I'm sure the fan base of the world has seen over the last week. Yeah. And I'm excited for my next time there.
Yeah, no, it's so cool. I love it. Like I said, again, I look, the super indie because I feel like a lot of the people when the AEW started, all the people that got signed were all people that are always watching in the indies and supporting between NYWC and ICW when Jack Ballin was running it, here was Orange Cassidy seeing him and Jungle Boy seeing over there. So it's crazy, watching, the growth of anybody, in the indies and then get those opportunities or whether they get signed. So it's exciting. And
it's a true alternative to WWE.
Yeah.
It was that thing that's it's funny. I'll tell you a backstory. used to train with Joe DeFranco out in Jersey, who's Triple H and Stephanie's trainer. And spring of 2019, going into the summer, he had told me, he said, they were still doing the cruiserweight thing at that time, the 205. And they're like, look, you had a tryout there. They're very high on you. They know what you could do. There's obviously interest, but you're not the biggest guy in the world.
Right.
And unless you can stay heavy, which I was 235 pounds at the time, but be diced up and chiseled to the grain, he's like, maybe that's not the route you want to go. And I understood that at that time, because it was like that time period around 2019 or so. It was like they were kind of doing that big indie clean where they were just signing everybody and their mother. And that was an opportunity for me. And basically Joe told me, just to keep it between me and him, he basically said, if you get down to this weight, the door is open. So I dedicated my entire spring into summer. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. I like to party. I like a good beer. I like a nice cocktail. I didn't drink a damn thing that summer.
Oh, wow.
And I got shredded. I was 4% body fat. I was 200 pounds. I was exactly what they wanted. And the time came, and I told Joe, and I was like, look, and this was before AEW. This was when AEW was announced but didn't debut yet. And I said, you know what? I just don't know if this is where I want to be. And it kind of reminded me of that moment I had with baseball, where I said, do I want to play baseball? Do I want to pursue wrestling? I have the chance right now to do it, but do I want to do it? And I had that moment with WWE. And it's not that they were offering me a contract tomorrow. Basically what they were doing was I got to what they wanted for me. Now the door was open to kind of explore it on both sides. And I told Joe, I was like, don't make that call. I was like, don't make that call yet. Let's see what's going on with Cody and these other guys and this other company. And let's just see. And, like I said, fate kind of has a way of showing itself. Everything kind of happened the way it's supposed to happen. I worked that commercial that summer, the Philadelphia commercial, started getting a lot of buzz with the acting stuff. And if I would have went to WWE, I know none of that stuff would have happened.
Yeah. Well, everything happens for a reason, right? Everything happens for a reason.
That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
And I feel that's the same way with AEW, where it's like, maybe I'm not signed there right now because it's just not the time.
Right.
And I look at that now, where back in the day I would be frustrated and I would turn around and be like, oh, what do these people have that I don't have? Not that I would ever think negatively about people. I want to make that clear. That's the last thing I am. I think you could tell by talking to me and people who know me, like I want everyone to succeed, because I'm not that person. I'm not the other person. What that person that's on TV right now, I don't have. What that person on TV has that I have, that person does not have. So competition doesn't flow like that for me. Competition in regards to professional competition, that's one thing. But, I don't like to compare myself to other people. But I really believe that the path that I'm on right now is exactly the way it's supposed to be. Like this year right now, ever since 2022 started, I've never been busier in the entertainment world, which I'm ecstatic about because like I said, it wasn't something that I planned for, but it's kind of happening. And wrestling right now is kind of slowly but surely kind of coming to a new phase where it's almost kind of going back to how it used to be. And I know that might sound crazy for someone like you who kind of looks at all these shows and sees all this diversity for wrestling and stuff. And I don't mean not diverse. Wrestling is the most diverse, thank God, as it should be right now. Wrestling is literally for everybody. It should be for everybody. But I think that the style, for lack of a better word, is kind of in a new change where it's like, okay, we have our high flyers, we have our body guys, we have our storytellers, we have our luchadors. It's starting to kind of identify where everyone kind of has their role, and I think that's only going to work better for the business as a whole, rather than like, okay, now we're in a fast-paced situation. Now when we were coming up and we were growing up, everything was slow. Now everything's fast. Now everything's super fast. Now everything's hardcore. We're kind of finding a happy medium where that diversity is just making the products better.
Yeah. And I love the mix too. And I talk about this when even like a new student, that's starting to get out there. Maybe they're like a year into like actually starting to wrestle. And then when Steve Mack was just on recently, we were just having that conversation that I love seeing some of the students work these vets because they might be used to that one particular style, whether they are a high flyer, or whether they're technical, and then they're going up against somebody else that wasn't trained like that, who's been a veteran for 20 plus years. And then there's so much that you can learn from. And I had that conversation with Chris Bradley, who's like new, and he didn't really know about like Steve Mack. And I was like, learn everything you can. I was like, from Steve, I was like, when you meet him, I was like, because I was like, he's been in the business a long time. And I was like, eat that freaking moment that you're going to have, Same thing with Azrael, like him and Rocket just had a banger of a match, and I can just tell because I'm like, damn, like Azrael's not going easy on Rocket right now. But I like that. I like that medium of it.
And I really think it makes the business better because I think we were in a situation, and I can speak for myself.
Yeah.
When we were entering that peak where like Evolve was banging and Ring of Honor had Cody, the Bucks, everybody, we were entering a phase where it was like everybody has to work a certain style in order to get over, and that was bam, 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 high spot, strike this, that. We lost storytelling. Yeah. Whether people realize it or not, we lost storytelling. The very elite, no pun intended, are able to do both.
Yeah.
But when you have up and coming guys, and you have guys like that are on my level where it's like, yeah, we're over, but we still need to kind of climb up that ladder. Yeah. What we do is we kind of emulate what we see from the people that are incredibly over on TV or in the indies. And we think that is the style we need to do. Where in reality, the most success I've gotten in wrestling is literally doing the things that I'm supposed to do for what I'm able to do, my ability. And whether that's look good, whether that's be muscular, whether that's use power, whether that's tell stories, whatever people think my best asset is, I needed to realize that. Because someone that looks like me shouldn't be going up to the top rope and attempting a 450 splash. It just shouldn't happen. A, because there are people that do it 10 times better than me. And B, because I can't do it. So if I did it, it's not going to look good. You know what I'm saying? But I was finding myself in a situation where I was watching these matches with guys that are so much more athletically talented than me, and I was thinking that I had to do this.
Yeah.
And I felt like it really, A, probably took years off my career, and B, also probably took a back step in my progression, because it's like, why am I trying to do moves that I think are going to get me over?
Right.
And in reality, I'm not doing them as good as the people who are over. So it's crazy because, 10 years in, sometimes it takes that long for that light bulb to click.
Yeah.
And you touched on like wrestling vets and rookies and stuff. Yeah. And it's because that's what helps you. Yeah. I've had so many conversations with guys that are my vets and my superiors, and they would turn around and they would say, Mike, like, you don't need to do that. Look at you. And I would just say, yeah, no, you're right. And I would still do it.
Yeah.
And to reach a point where it's like, yo, these guys are right. So every time these guys that are up and coming can kind of learn under that learning tree, like you said, and really grasp that knowledge, like that's what's going to make them succeed, because not everybody is the same. And what they see on TV or what they see on these streaming services or at live shows, it doesn't mean that's the road they're supposed to take when it comes to training.
Preach. Okay. I know I'm sitting here. I'm still a fan first and whatever, a podcaster second, and I sit and I have these conversations with the rookies, and I get so pissed off at some of the new kids that they're like flippy shit, and then they're like, I want to do deathmatch wrestling. I'm like, you have no business doing deathmatch wrestling. I was like, I'm gonna smack you, but why? I want to do it. I want to hit a light tube. And I was like, yeah, so then you can have scars, and then your talent that you actually have, whether if you're doing like these crazy high flying spots and you're good, and then you want to go scar up your body and stuff, and I'm like, no, because you could get maybe signed, and maybe you're not gonna get signed because you have all these scars of you being young.
You put a dark cloud over you. People start thinking that you're a one-trick pony because you want it, or they don't really see you for your true talent because they just see you trying to do what everyone else can.
Right.
If every company on TV has a guy that fits your mold, and you're trying to do what he does or she does, what's that going to do?
Yeah.
What's that going to do? You can look at someone that's identical to you and say, okay, this person looks like me, he acts like me. Let me use MJF for an example. Max and I, when we used to drive to all these shows, we always used to kind of sit there and say, Max, like, you're so similar to The Miz and Alberto Del Rio and EC3 and stuff like that. Like, what's going to be your path? Like, what are you going to do to differentiate yourself? And we used to look back and we like, yeah, we don't know, because he was young into the business at that time. Like, no one really knew. It was just like, Max, you're going to be someone in this business. I just wonder, like, what is going to be you that separate? What are you going to do that separates yourself?
Right.
And the genius that Max is he's literally the most, and I'm sure he'll say this too, he is literally the most cliche version of a heel.
Yeah.
And the genius thing about it is that nobody wants to do that. So what did he do? He said, I'm really good at this, and no one else is doing it. And everyone forgot that art of being a heel.
Yeah.
Everyone forgot what that art is like to be a Roddy Piper. You know, to be that type of guy that is just okay with being a bad guy.
Yeah.
And he took that ball and he scored 8 touchdowns and won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's someone who literally looked at the landscape and said, okay, there are so many guys that fit the same mold as me, but I'm going to make myself different. And he did that.
Yeah.
He did that. And I think a lot of people need to look at Max and his trajectory of his career and say, okay, you know, he was faced with all these obstacles, yet he was still able to stand out.
Right.
He didn't need to do a 450 splash to get over.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And I think that's a big thing that a lot of people are forgetting in this day and age. Is like, don't try to be what you see on TV.
Yeah.
Be your own version of yourself.
Be you, yeah, just be you. So I've always said that. Wes in the chat says, every time I go to Outlaw, you kill it, Mike. Only thing I don't like is that my son Kyle can't come because these shows are school nights, but one day. Yeah, they run on Thursdays. So
we got Outlaw's got some weekend shows coming up, especially in the summer.
Oh, okay. Mark it down, Wes. There you go.
Yeah, Thursday nights Outlaws. Thursday Outlaws is a thing, man. It is a tradition. I think it is something, not to go too off topic, but outlaw wrestling is something that New York has been missing for a long time.
Yeah.
I think, you know, we have House of Glory, we have NYWC, we have Creative Pro, we have all these great companies, but Outlaw is that outlaw promotion where it's like, we're going to bring you a party every single Thursday night. And I don't think we have a company like that in the indies other than Beyond that is really like, we're going to go and have a good time.
Yeah.
Like, we know we're going to see wrestling, but it's not just for the wrestling fan.
Right, right.
And that's a great thing. So Outlaw Thursdays are here to stay, but Outlaw will definitely be having some weekend shows as the summer comes along.
There you go, Wes. So, you know, it's funny. I brought up Jack Ballard, which I love freaking dearly. I love him so.
Jack Sabbath.
Yeah, let's get that. Sorry. Whoops. Bro, break the kayfabe. Sorry. Sorry. Anyway, you know, but let's talk. I want to talk ETU.
I'm gonna eat this piece of chocolate. Is that okay?
Yeah, you're good. Okay, so I want to talk ETU because I really love what Struggles and Jack Kyga brought together. It gave me that old school ICW vibe. I'm upset that I missed the first one because I got very sick. I'm pretty sure I had COVID. You know, so I was very sad that I missed, you know, the first show. But I was home pouting, but supporting from home. But I mean, which is great. And I'm gonna have Struggles come on to the podcast. So if anybody's interested, because we're already in the talks that we're gonna chat about, because I need to talk ETU with him. But it's just crazy. So it's like, you know, you got to work with Azrael, who I like to give shit to every time I see him, and Paladin, and then versus, you know, Juva, Shane Douglas, and Valo, like. Tell us your experience for this new upcoming promotion and working with a bunch of your friends again.
Well, again, I feel like because of the pandemic, so when I first came up, New York, New Jersey was hot. I think that was the hotbed. Like New England was just kind of feeling their own. They were their own thing. They were killing it. But New York was like banging. Yeah. We had so many companies in the indie scene that like they didn't have the exposure that the indies have right now, but they were hot. There was a show every weekend. I hated it at the time, but looking back at it, it kind of brought a little juice to it. The promoters all hated each other, so there was never any kind of like friendship. It was always like, you can't work there if you work here. Screw this guy. There was a war, for lack of a better word. And it brought a little bit of energy, you know? It brought a little bit of like, this is my team. We're going to fight. We're going to win New York, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And that kind of like faded as the years went by, and then the pandemic hit, obviously, and a lot of companies didn't really survive. And New York specifically, other than Outlaw and Hog, New York City, there wasn't many like companies that were running regularly. And I know ETU was in Jersey, but I consider it that New York feel, because of Jack Sabbath, who used to run, you know, the OG ICWs and the old Elks Log buildings and stuff like that. So Jack knows what it's like to kind of have that New York feel. So when I got to ETU, that's exactly what it felt like. When I showed up, it was like, okay, we got a lot of New York OGs here. We had obviously Azrael. We had obviously the SAT. We had Papadon on the show. These are guys that like, if you, Danny DeMonto was on the show who I'm wrestling next week or 2 weeks from now, whatever it may be. You had that feel of like, this is an OG show mixed with the new school. Like you said, myself, Jaden Vallow. There was just a lot of people on that show that would just like really stand out. And I remember sitting on the stage during the main event because, you know, obviously, like I said, the SAT is trainers of mine. And I was watching right next to Struggles during the main event, and we're just hitting each other like we're both walking out. We're hitting each other because it's like, this is the feel that the tri-state area has been missing. And that's not a detriment to a lot of the companies in the tri-state area, because there are a lot of good companies, a lot of great companies even that run in that same building.
Right.
But there was a feel of ETU that just gave me that rush of like, this is what New York, then I'm going to say New York again, even though it was in Jersey, but this was the feel of that tri-state area independent wrestling buzz that we once had that we lost.
Yeah.
And I felt like the more and more they continue to run, and the more and more they kind of keep the product going with that vibe, it's only going to get better. You know, expect the unexpected. Yeah, straight up. Expect the unexpected wrestling. I think that's what we're going to get. Well, I will say I expect things to be very, very good from them because I had a lot of fun my first show. It was a bit of a challenging match because it was 3 different people. It was a 6-man match where no one really teamed. Like, we're part of the embassy, but we didn't team. So it was fun. It was a nice challenge, and that's what I mean. It was like, it wasn't like, hey, me versus this guy one-on-one, just your traditional thing. It was like, all right, we have 3. Me, Azrael, first of all, I'm the most inexperienced out of Azrael and Papadon. You're talking about 2 tri-state legends that have years and years of experience versus Juba, Shane Douglas, who is a legend, and Jaden Vallis. So you have such a dynamic of like all experience levels kind of coming into one, and it was just a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. ETU did the right thing at the right time.
Yeah, they did. I'm really excited to see where this goes. Like I said, it gave me that old school ICW, Elks Lodge, Kaiga feel, and like I'm like, shit. So
100%.
Damn COVID. I'm still so mad. Like, I wanted to be there.
They're here to stay.
I know they're definitely here to stay. I'm still salty because I was really looking forward to like the first show of this promotion, like I said. So, but I always tell Struggles that I'm like, I feel very disappointed I wasn't there to experience it, because if you didn't watch that, go back, watch that show. Every match had a freaking banger. Like, it was, oof, my God.
It felt that way, and I gotta give a lot of credit to Struggles because, you know, he's kind of someone like you. Yeah. You know, kind of on the outs. What do we call it off the air? The halvesies, the half in, half out.
Yeah, the halvesies.
You know, but now he's obviously in all the way. Yeah. Obviously in all the way, but you know, that takes a lot of balls. Takes a lot of balls. You're an established person on social media. You have a lot of good relationships with the workers, and then you say, hey, I'm gonna fucking run a promotion. It's not easy, and he took the ball and he ran with it. I don't know who his team is, but credit to everybody involved. Man. Really credit to everybody involved.
Kudos to Struggles and all that fun stuff. Damn, that's dangerous though if like I decided to start my own promotion.
You'd be surprised. Wait and see. Give it a couple of months to a year. You're gonna say, you know what, I'm doing it.
That's a little scary because I don't know if
you say that now, but you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised.
I don't know, it'd be interesting. I like doing those podcasts where, you know, I do the dream matches, and it's funny because I always say, like, I think somebody had said to me, a promoter, and they were like, stop giving like dream matches, you know, like, because I would like make graphics and I'm like, okay, this is what I want to see or whatever. And then it was like, don't give it away. I go, what do you mean don't give it away? I was like, I'm not booking it. I was like, so if you book it, I'm going to come to the show.
That's it. You know? I'm not stealing your idea.
It's like, stupid, take it.
I'm telling you to do it.
Yeah. I was like, take it, come on, I want to come. I'll come to the show. Like, I want to support this. So that's why I do that. I feel like I gotta do that again in the future. Let's do a fan tweet that we got. So we got from Good Cop, Bad Cop. I love you to death. He goes, with Mike Verna being an anagram of Vine maker, what 6 seconds of your career are you putting in your ultimate Mike Verna Vine?
I don't even know what that is. Can you break that down for me? Like the Vine, the app, the Vine? I remember Vines. Do it for the Vine? Is that what that is? Is that what he's talking about?
Yeah, remember the app, the Vines, that was like
that.
quick?
Of course I remember that.
Well,
no wonder why it didn't last.
This was the best freaking pop of a question in my podcast career.
I appreciate the question, but I'm not sure how to answer it. Anagram. Okay. I'm very confused. I feel like I'm letting you down.
No, he does it to everybody. He does it to all my guests, these anagram questions. He loves messing with it, but he said sometimes they come out with the best stories. So, you know, so you got a personalized question.
Wait, anagram, isn't that like if you spell a word out?
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. But anyway, so his whole thing is he wants you with a Vine of your 6 seconds, the best moment to make a Vine of your career.
Oh, wow. Oh, God. Oh, man. It's a really good question. Okay, now I understand the question, and that is actually a very good question. What would be the ultimate Vine? Oh, wow. That is such a good question. I feel like there's mad moments. Okay. Only because everyone, you know, loves this now. I feel like there's got to be moments in matches where it's like I do a move and I give them the old this. Yeah. I think it would definitely fit in a Vine because it would be within 6 seconds, no doubt about that. I think it would be more of a TikTok trend though, personally, if that was me. You know, you put the little Italian music in the background and you just see doing this. I think, we're gonna make that happen. We're gonna make that a trend. I don't even use TikTok, but we're gonna make that happen.
You just broke me. I swear. Like, good cop back. I'm clipping this and putting this on Twitter.
Kudos to that question because you had me for a second. It was a lot there.
Now,
exactly you meant, but now I get it and I appreciate it.
Now I feel like the next time that I come up to Chaotic, we're gonna have to like do this video, and I'm all for this since I'm Italian too.
I'm all about it. I'm all about it.
It's that Italian way with the hands and everything. So we're gonna do a Vine, but it's gonna be a TikTok version of Vine. So there we go. So shout out to Good Cop Bad Cop. Let's see. All right, so let's do another like good question. Since it's dear to my heart, wrestling with positivity. I've been preaching this on the podcast for God knows how long now. Also, that video, if you guys didn't see it, it's pinned on the Indie Wrestling Corner. Part 2 had a bunch of wrestlers and parents and fans contribute to that. So I appreciate all you guys that did that. But if you guys know, I like to incorporate it now into my interviews with anybody that comes on. So is there anything that sticks out to you that, like a normal fan, like, me or somebody doesn't, see something maybe a fan's done for you, maybe a wrestler's done for you, something you've done for a fan, something you've done for a wrestler, something positive that we wouldn't normally see because it's behind closed doors pretty much.
Yeah, I mean that's a beautiful. First of all, it's a great thing that you do that. It's a really good thing that I think this business needs. I don't want to sound too cliche, but positivity in wrestling is, I think, needed. Positivity in all forms of entertainment. If you're putting yourself out there to be criticized, to be ridiculed at times, to be judged, positive reinforcement it goes a long way for us. Like you can look at someone like me who I seem like I got myself together and all that stuff, but sometimes you read a tweet or two. I'll never fucking acknowledge the haters, but you'll read a tweet or two and you're like, man, this guy had a bad day or something that he's saying this, but I brush it off. But every now and then you need to kind of see that other tweet where it's like, hey, Mike Verna's the best, Yeah. You need that. So the positivity sometimes, it goes a lot, not sometimes, all the time. It goes a long way in all forms of entertainment. It's good to kind of keep people in that positive mental state. And there's no reason for, people to be shitty. So what you do and that whole, mission statement is a big deal, specifically in wrestling, because obviously we know how hard this can be. Physically and also mentally for a lot of people. Me personally, I would never really kind of brag or boast about things that I do positively. But if you talk to anybody, and again, this is the last thing I want to do is sound like I'm patting myself on the back. But if you talk to anybody, one of the proudest things I would ever hear about myself is that my reputation. And that's being a good guy, being a good human being. I'm never in trouble, and I don't intend to be in trouble. I think a lot of the negative things we see on social media and things that people do in this business, it's really unacceptable. There's not a place for that at all. Yeah. So I think just overall being a good person goes a long way with me. So I would never really kind of look at my actions in the past and say, oh, I did this for that person, did that for that person. But if you know me and you're starting to get to know me better, you see I'm a positive person all the time. So being positive and making sure people are lifted up. I was talking bullshit with AG the other day before the match, and we were talking about doing some things. I was like, yeah, that's all I got. And he turned around and he goes, and being a good person, that helps too. Aww. And I was like, you know what? AG's a sarcastic guy. That's just a sense of humor. But when he said that, I look back and I was like, that's a great compliment to me. Yeah. For me to be known for being just a good person in a business where it hurts to be a good person, for lack of a better word. That goes a long way for me. So like I said, when it comes down to me, things that stick out to me, I try to do something good in this business every day, whether it's, sending out an autograph picture to someone in Denmark, like you said, ironically, Denmark, that just, they hit you up on that fan mail. Somehow they find your address in the freaking Google machine. And they, some people react very negatively to that. I don't really like when people kind of, invade that privacy, but I'll also be the first person to send the signed 8x10 back. Right. I hate to say it because that's just the type of person I am. But I can look back at things that people have done for me, and I've been lucky because I've had a lot of people that have kind of, I guess, realized the type of person I am and type of individual I am, and they've went out of their way to help me, whether it's on a grand stage of things like AEW or WWE, or even outside the ring, whether it's people offering drives. I remember a moment actually early in my career. Myself popping on a couple of guys from New York. We did a show called Hardcore Road Trip. Mm-hmm. It was an ECW tribute show, and it was in Canada, London, Ontario, Canada. On night 2, the promoter faked a heart attack. as shitty as that sounds, because he did not have the money to pay all the guys. So, mind you, I'm very early in my career at this point, so my payday was $50 and I was happy with it. But you had people like Chavo Guerrero, Rhino, the Dudley Boys, they all got skipped out on a payday.
Oh, wow.
So the wrestling fans in Canada, and Canada has a big reputation of being a bunch of good people. This just kind of is a testament to that. They paid for our hotel room, they bought us dinner, and they made sure that we had gas money to go home back over the border. To me, that still lives back in my memory to this day, because it's like, I mean, we were 30 wrestlers strong on that show, and we were stranded. There ain't no doubt about it. Like, granted, would we made it home? Yeah, but we would end up spending an arm and a leg to get home. And these people made sure that we got home. And I look back, I was like, you know, that's something that I'm happy that it happened early on, because I think that kind of woke me up early to how this business can be sometimes, and to show you how much you can get by being positive and being a good person, because that's the stuff that gets you through it. I think if you were a negative person or had a negative mindset and that happened to you, you might have not came back from that. You might have turned around and said, this is the shittiest business I've ever been in. I'm never going out there. I got stranded in Canada because a guy brought me here and didn't pay me, and now I got to spend $500 to get back over the border. All that shit, like, you know, that could have really broke people. And I'm happy that it happened the way it did, because who knows? That could have been my wake-up call that said, hey, this sucks, you know? But ended up not, thank God.
Wow. That's crazy.
It's a wild story, but it's not so far-fetched in wrestling. There's so much more dark sides to the ring that we know about.
I know. I know. But yeah, we like to focus on the positive here on this podcast, you know? Let's see. So, you know, another promotion that I did want to talk about, and then, you know, we'll do a couple other questions, is Northeast Wrestling. Another great promotion. You know, if you guys aren't watching it, definitely check it out. You know, I've been there. It's fun, you know. It's just like overall like a great promotion. Again, the vibe's great, you know, and especially if you like a lot of like the AEW stars, the WWE stars, you're gonna do a lot of those like meet and greets and stuff like that too. So, you know, for us marks out there, you know, definitely go check out Northeast Wrestling. But yeah, such a great place. Travels between like Connecticut, Poughkeepsie, like it's nuts. So, I mean,
Six Flags in the nation, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. But, you know, just to name, and again, you brought up Mike Bennett, and I was just going to name like a couple of names because, I mean, it could be endless, you know, with all the people that you work with. But just so those names, or if like they don't know you, or, you know, just so people get a little more familiar, like, again, Mike Bennett, Eddie Kingston, Christian Casanova, you know, these are just some of the talents that you've worked with over there. So, you know, like, what's been some of your favorite moments working with Northeast Wrestling?
First of all, I got to put over to NEW, because, I mean, I talk about chaotic being a home. NEW is my second home as well. There's no doubt about it. Those two companies I would put before anything else, and Outlaw, those three. But to be honest, and Beyond, four, whatever. But those four right there, those are like my platforms of like, you will see me there. Those are my platforms. Those are the companies that really did it. But NEW for me, it has become something more than just a company. Like, I feel thoroughly invested in the product. Mike Lombardi and myself, the promoter, who I think he's the best promoter. You know, his timeline in wrestling is, he used to help out with Dusty Rhodes. He's been running Northeast Wrestling for 25 years. I mean, he is iconic in this business. He knows what he's doing. I don't even consider Northeast Wrestling an indie. We call it an untelevised alternative to what you see on TV. That's what NEW is. NEW is a super show every single time, whether it's top quality names, up and coming talent, homegrown stars, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it is elite. It is a great company. It is investment like that is, I can't even put that higher than anything. I mean, NEW is like top quality. Mike has pushed me to the limit at times too by putting me against guys that really showcase my skills, whether it's the Gorillas of Destiny, the SCU, Daniels and Kazarian, me and JT wrestled. Obviously Mike Bennett. I think I wrestled Warbeer Hansen there. I mean, Eddie Kingston at Poughkeepsie most recently, we had a nice banger. I was just formerly the NEW Live champion. Like, I mean, I'm getting stuttered here because it's that good of a company. It is that good of a company. I can't put it over high enough. I mean, the houses are always packed. The boys and girls are always treated right. The fans are so passionate. You know what you're getting. I mean, if we're in a big venue like Poughkeepsie, you feel like you're at WrestleMania. You have the ramp, you got the screen, you got the lights, you got all that good stuff. And if we're home in Bethany and there's 500 people standing, screaming, they're so invested. Like, we were talking about it backstage the other day. We're like, you know, a lot of the up-and-coming guys, again, they think that they have to do more than they have to. But they don't realize that the crowd that we have here, they care about you. They're invested in you. Go out there and do you. And that's all you got to do to get over. And
Yeah.
once you're over, it's easy. It is easy. You just got to feed to your strengths. And NEW gives you that platform. You don't have to go out there and prove yourself every time, because once you're a made man, you're a made man.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a while since I've been over there. And actually, I think.
Gotta go back.
I know. I got to listen. It's so hard. Listen, when you figure out how to clone myself, let me know, because so I can come and support all you guys. It's so difficult for me because and then again, like I just had a crazy weekend, with between H2O and GCW weekend and everything like that. And then I came home and then I turned on things that I missed from the weekend, and it's just like impossible trying to support you guys. The last time I was there actually was like when before Moxley had surgery. So him and Pentagon are having this banger match and like coming into the crowd. Yeah, like it was nuts. It was just like fun. And then I remember like Private Party, and then like Isaiah threw his beads at me and I was all excited, and like I love those boys too. But good times. I definitely need to get my butt back. And I think also shout out to the social media team too, because I saw like on Instagram that they were having their own social media people that are showcasing the entrances of you guys and little clips of like, matches and stuff. And I was like, damn, that's smart. And this is a great way to, get invested into a new company if you've never been there.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So shout out to all you guys. That's why everybody in the business is so important. So
valued and important. And I think to touch on what you said, I'm starting to notice that a lot of companies, big budget shows and small budget shows, they're expanding their team. Like I said, when I first started, we didn't have what we have today on social media and all this extra stuff that kind of like, promote yourselves and your brands and all that stuff. But I mean, to see that there's a whole team of people that are kind of like building the brand just day by day. Like you just have people just going out and doing it. Okay, with his, he's been doing his thing for years now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I mean, it's guys like that and people like that and anyone involved, like just kind of pushing the business forward, and that's what we need.
Yeah, definitely. I try my best. I try to do my clips and my podcast out for you guys. I try to put it out there.
I'm telling you, you don't realize. You may not realize it because you're doing your thing, and you're like, oh, it's no big deal. This is what I do, but it is. I say it in every podcast I'm on. What podcasts do for the wrestler, it gives fans more.
Yeah.
If they see us perform. They know us from an in-ring, but once we get on these podcasts with you guys, assuming that's a good podcast, you get to see more, and you get to create a fan base, and they appreciate you more. And that goes a long way.
It's funny because I'm always gonna be that humble person that I feel like I'm nobody. But I was just saying it to my friend that came up with me in a chaotic, and I was like, here I come up to Massachusetts. I didn't think anybody was like listening to me, and the way that the fans were treating me, like, oh, I watched your interview with, like JT or Trigger or whatever, and this and that. And I'm like, damn, I was like, oh wow, like I still feel I'm nobody. But I appreciate the fans out there too. And I'm glad that, this is the whole reason why I do these podcasts. Again, like you said, like I'm interviewing you, I get to chat, with some of my favorite wrestlers, and, get to learn more and get you, more fans into it, which is great.
100%. You hit it right on the head there.
Yeah. So, let's do a couple more questions and then we're going to let you go. So, but, what are some things you like to do when you're not in the squared circle?
Oh, that's the $1 million question. So when the pandemic hit, and this is the only good I could say about the pandemic, the only good, because there was no wrestling, my weekends out of nowhere freed up. Mm-hmm. I went from having every single weekend booked where I had no social life whatsoever to having nothing to do and kind of regaining my social life. So because of the pandemic, I was able to kind of realize that, my friends still exist and everything in between.
Yeah.
I definitely love my social life, but what I really enjoy doing outside of the ring is I love being involved in baseball. Like I said earlier, that really has become my passion. Being involved in the game, growing the game, coaching the game, all the affiliations that I work with right now, kind of gave me, like I said, a third career. I laugh all the time. I say, the three things I do for a living are the three things that I wanted to do when I was a kid. Not so much acting, but I guess I was an actor. I just didn't realize it.
Right.
So I'm kind of living out childhood dreams with every job that I have. And I wake up in the morning and I'm able to do what I want to do. So it's not work, as they say. But yeah, I love being involved in baseball. And I mean, acting, as much of a job it is for me right now, it's became a passion as well. It really, like I said, it came out of nowhere, kind of fell in my lap, and then I kind of ran with it and I took it seriously and I kind of made it a craft. And now that work is coming in pretty consistently from the acting side of things, like, it's been keeping me busy. It's been keeping me busy. I'm shooting a movie next month, which is going to take me away from some shows that I had lined up. But it's part of the business. You got to do some things. But I mean, it's good stuff all around. I mean, the things that you see me do are the things that I love to do, and I'm happy that it occupies so much of my time.
Yeah, good. Maybe you could like help me out so I can stop like laughing during like when I'm doing like freaking backstage shit and stuff.
Always think about dead dogs.
No! Oh my god!
No, I know.
No, then I'm gonna start crying during backstage stuff.
It is an acting trick.
Oh my god!
I'm telling you right now, every class that I've had, they say you don't have to learn how to cry on purpose, but if you're having a situation where you're not in character and you need to be sad, just think of what I just told you.
Oh my god!
I'm not gonna repeat it.
Jesus.
And it changes everything up real quick.
Oh my god! I just got morbid.
I'm sorry to say that on the air, but it works. It works.
Oh my god! Yeah, because I have a clip that I was doing a promo with somebody, and which I haven't released it yet because I have to edit the little clip on Twitter and go through it with the wrestler because we have a whole thing going on with it. But he did a dive in front of me, and my face reaction was shocked as shit, but then I just died laughing and it ruined the whole thing. But it was more of a pure fun reaction, so I need to get better with that.
What's the best one?
Yeah, no, it's like more, I sent it to somebody, they were like, actually, I like this. They were like, don't change it. They're like, these are the moments that are more fun. But that's me, that's my personality. But right. Keith in the chat says, does Mike know if he's going to be on the card for the Chaotic show in Dover?
Is that New Hampshire?
Yeah.
No, I am not. That is more of a it's like a student show, basically. I mean, there's going to be some local guys that are there, of course, but unfortunately, I must say to you, New Hampshire is not local for me. Yeah. So I'd rather those students get a chance to shine, really, really show the fans what they can do because, like I said, New England Pro Wrestling Academy is one of the best schools in the entire nation. Some of the best stars come out of there, so you guys are going to get a real good taste up close and personal of what they can do.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that they're getting the spot over me in those situations because they definitely deserve it, and I'm sure I'm going to be across the ring from them one day, so I want to make sure they're ready.
Yeah, no, it's great. I appreciate the students and all that stuff like that. It's fun. So I don't know when I'm gonna come back up to Chaotic. Hopefully soon. I'll make it work. But yeah, New Hampshire is pretty. What is that, like 5.5 hours? Is that the ride?
It's pretty deep. I didn't even want to GPS it because it'll make me like scared.
I think it's 5.5
That's the one thing I hate now is the travel. I'm gonna be honest with you. Now that I'm a grizzled vet, I hate to travel.
Yeah, I think it's 5.5 hours in the car from New York. So yeah. What's some goals that you have for 2022?
Well, I definitely want from I'll say the acting side of things first because this is I might as well talk about everything. I did the role with Queen Latifah on the Equalizer. That should be airing in May, so you'll see that coming up pretty soon. But I'd love to kind of land, and I have I can't really talk about it just yet, but a Christmas film that's we're shooting next month. It's going to be really good. A lot of good stars in it. Like I said, I can't really mention them, but a lot of familiar faces. It's going to be on a big streaming service, so it's going to get a lot of eyes, and I got a really cool role in that one. But I would love to land like a nice series regular or a nice like really good supporting a co-star lead in a movie that I don't even know exists yet, but something that really makes me passionate about it. So we'll see what comes up with that. But for wrestling, I think I would love to just kind of continue to keep doing what I'm doing, which is working the shows that I want to work instead of, like I said earlier, taking every booking under the sun and kind of burning myself out. I enjoy having a situation now where I'm a little bit more exclusive to some companies, which I think is a great asset for a lot of wrestlers because if people want to see you, they kind of just have to go to the shows that you're on.
Right.
I will be debuting for House of Glory Wrestling in the near future. If you guys saw the vignettes for the HOGPD, the captain has arrived. I'm looking forward to that because that's always been a company I want to work for. It's in Queens. I'm from Brooklyn, so it's right in my backyard, and I love to see New York City wrestling grow. It's very important to me because, like I said, it's not what it used to be. And companies like Outlaw and House of Glory and ETU and ICW and every company that runs in the area, GCW, we're making New York wrestling popping again. Yeah. And we need that. So I'm excited for that. And when it comes down to a contract, which is the $1 million question, I hate to be vague, but it's got to be something that's right.
There you go.
That's what it comes down to. I got too much stuff going on right now to just take any contract. I'm happy being an independent wrestler. I'm happy being able to do the shows I want to do and kind of controlling my schedule.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's funny because it's like you say about like, you know, with New York wrestling, I would like a break from my Easy Pass would like a break, you know?
My car, at least.
Like seriously.
Yeah, I
my
know.
my Easy
I've had the
Pass.
car for 5 months. It's at 10,000 miles already.
Like, I feel you. My Easy Pass is laughing at me pretty.
Shows your bank account.
It's like, haha, let me hit you with this $16 charge. Like, god damn it. Wrestling's expensive. I think I might need a sugar daddy for all the wrestling that I freaking
You'll
go
get them,
to.
trust me. You know how these, you know how it can
Oh
be.
god. Wait,
You know how it
unclip
can
this out.
You know how it can be.
Let's not go there. So I have one final question for you. If anybody else has anything, drop it into the chat. But I would like to end it off, you know, for those amateur and inspiring wrestlers out there. What's a piece of advice that you would give them?
Love this question because I love to give it.
Yeah.
Advice is key. I love to give advice. Goes back to your positivity question.
Yes.
Before. I really enjoy helping people in that aspect of things. I would say, first of all, when it comes to a mental standpoint, make sure your ego's in check. Make sure you understand and respect the people around you, respect the business, because like I said, when I first started, respect was everything. You need to earn it. You weren't given it. No one cared what you looked like, what your potential could be. They don't care how good you think you are. You need to be respected by those people or you will go nowhere. You will go nowhere if you're a bad person. If you come off as a bad person, you will go nowhere. It's just a fact. This business is made up on talent and it's also made up on networking and being liked. It's just the bottom line. It's like life.
Yeah.
Do you realize that it's like life? But the physical advice I would give you is wrestling obviously is not ballet. It is not an easy thing to do. It hurts. It hurts a lot. You feel it. It messes with you. So I give any advice to male or female, but usually a lot of guys ask me about the gym. Before I was a wrestler, when I stopped playing baseball, the first thing I did before joining a school right away was making sure that I spent a year in the gym building my body. A baseball body is a lot different than a wrestling body or any kind of combat sport body. So I had to pack on muscle. I had to learn how to safely lift and protect my body in areas that wrestling would affect it, like your back and your neck and all that other stuff. So I made sure that I was really 100% ready for the ring, because once you get in there, if your body is not prepared for it, your career could end like that. Your career could end like that and you could look like me. So, I mean, it's not about being the biggest guy in the room or the strongest guy in the room, but just make sure that your body's ready. You know, you got to make sure that you're prepared to kind of take the pain that's coming and put that effort in, whether it's your diet, whether it's the gym, like I said, whether it's studying, all that stuff, all the preparation, it goes a long way before you take your first bump. Because a lot of people enter the wrestling business and they think it's one thing when it's completely the opposite. And when that happens, you can lose your passion real quick. So just be prepared and have all your bases covered.
Wow. That's great advice. So take your notes, Sky, if you're still listening.
Me too.
I love Sky so much. So, you know, let's talk about some of the stuff that you got coming up. I got a couple of graphics here, you know, that I put up or whatever. You know, Chaotic's coming, which is great. Psycho Circus is this weekend.
Yep.
So I have all that stuff so you can, you know, you guys can pull out the Outlaw March 3rd. You said that there's some other stuff too. So that's why they need to be following you on social media.
Too, at Man of Steel MV.
Awesome. So go give him some love. Go follow him. You can buy merch, support the independent talent. You know, the link's in the description below. So buy the merch pretty much and buy the unit. Sure.
Yes. Take the pledge.
Take the pledge. I took
Take
the pledge.
that pledge.
I took the pledge and I got shit for taking the pledge.
Yeah. They're jealous. They're jealous. That's what it is.
It's all good. It's all good. So, but yeah. So, you know, this has been so much fun. We had some laughs. I mean, I'm not going to think about dead dogs. So.
I'm sorry I said that, but it'll work one day. It'll work one day.
It's okay. That's what makes me pretty much. So, but you know, that's it. But Mike, it's been so much fun chatting with you, talking the unit and everything. You know, I'll see you around, obviously, between New York and Massachusetts and all the
up north, up and down the coast of the tri-state area. That's what we do.
Pretty much.
That's what we do.
That's how we roll. So, but
being on, and for anyone who joined us, thank you. Because like I told Tiff here, as much as podcasts and any kind of media personnel that come into the pro wrestling, the fans are obviously what kind of keeps us going, if you haven't noticed that already. Yeah. You know, I always say this real quick, my closing point, the difference between acting and wrestling is that the itch that I get on camera, the itch that I get in the ring and the satisfaction that I get in the ring from the fans, I will never get on a camera. Yeah. Always remember that.
So, but awesome stuff. You know, Keith just said he's not taking the pledge. So
you're lost, Keith. You're lost.
I can't deal. So, but yeah, so guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Thank you for all your support and your love and your questions and all that fun stuff. I appreciate all of you guys. So, with that being said, Kylan King's coming on this week, and so is Becca. So we'll talk to her a little bit. So, and AC's coming on next week. So, make sure.
Got a nice stacked group of talent coming on.
Yeah, I love it. So make sure you guys are subscribed to the Indie Wrestling Corner if you aren't already. So, but with that being said, guys, you have a wonderful night. Stay safe, support independent wrestling, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Have a good night.